You found, you found Ask Alice, the podcast that takes a deep dive into the societal currents shaping our lives. I'm your host, Alice, and together we'll explore the often unseen forces at play. We'll examine cutting-edge research, dissect the data, and most importantly, if you're seeking to understand what's shaping our society, this is the place.
Welcome to this deep dive. We're turning our attention to a really difficult subject today. It's centered on that tragic event, the assassination of Minnesota Speaker Emerita Melissa Hortman and her husband back on June 14th, 2025.
And the related attack on Senator John Hoffman and his wife, too. Just awful.
Yeah. Governor Tim Walz called it a, quote, politically motivated assassination. Law enforcement identified a suspect, Vince Bolter, and sources indicate they found a manifesto listing politicians who supported abortion rights.
That's a heavy topic, definitely. Our sources for this deep dive, articles, notes, research, they really guide us through the legislative world around this. Our mission really is to understand the context.
Right. What was Speaker Emerita Hortman actually working on, in her final days at the Capitol?
Exactly. And how does her legislative path kind of intersect with this violence? We need to look at her specific actions right before her death, but also her broader legacy, as it's detailed in the material we have.
Okay, let's start with the political climate then. Because the sources, they really highlight how incredibly challenging things were in Minnesota's 2025 session. Super divided.
Extremely divided. Think about this. After the 2024 election, the House was stuck. A rare 67-67 tie.
Wow, 67-67. That must have caused chaos.
Oh, it did. That tie pretty much set the tone for the whole session. The sources mentioned it kicked off with major conflict, even what the DFL called a legislative coup attempt by Republicans. It got messy.
A coup attempt. So messy it went to court.
The Supreme Court had to step in, and all that conflict, it basically forced them into a formal power-sharing agreement.
And that's where Melissa Hortman becomes Speaker Emerita, so she steps back from the gavel day to day.
But crucially, she stays the DFL leader, the main negotiator for her side in this, incredibly split environment.
Okay, so fast forward. The regular session ends, but they couldn't pass a budget.
Right. Core function of government, and they couldn't do it. The state was staring down a potential shutdown.
So they had to call a special session.
It's exactly. A super high-stakes, one-day special session. June 9th, just to pass 14 essential budget bills. And this is where things really came to a head legislatively.
And even in that rush, one bill stood out, according to the sources. First special session, House File 1, or SSHF1. It caused a huge fight.
It did. And this is where Speaker Emerita Hortman makes this pivotal and, the sources describe it as a painful decision.
What was SSHF1 about again?
It repealed state-funded healthcare eligibility Minnesota care for undocumented adults. It actually reversed a policy the DFL themselves had championed before.
Ah, okay. And the sources say this wasn't just, another policy debate. This repeal was a top Republican priority.
A top priority, it seems. Framed mostly around saving money, especially with a state deficit limbing, the material really emphasizes it was non-negotiable for the Republicans.
Tied to other funding, so the governor couldn't really veto it.
Pretty much veto-proof.
Yeah.
Which put the DFL in an incredibly tough spot. The sources describe almost 4 hours of intense, really emotional debate within the House DFL caucus.
So her own party was fiercely against it, saw it as betraying their values.
Absolutely. And yet, despite all that pressure from her own side, Speaker Emerita Hortman cast the deciding vote.
The final tally was 68-65, and the sources make a point of this. She was the only DFL member to vote. Yay.
The only one. She crossed the aisle, alone basically, to make what she saw as a necessary concession, to get the budget passed and stop a shutdown.
Her reasoning, based on the sources, was pragmatic.
Pure pragmatism. Her statement said it was painful, but required for the overall deal. She's quoted saying, "A true compromise means no one gets everything they want." It was about keeping the government functioning.
Okay, so connecting this back to the assassination, here's the crucial thing the sources seem to distinguish. That SSHF1 vote, her dramatic final act.
Right.
The evidence suggests the motive wasn't that vote. It was tied to her broader legislative legacy.
That's critical. The sources consistently call her a consequential leader, especially during that 2023-2024 DFL trifecta when they controlled everything.
Right, when she pushed through a lot of major progressive policies.
Huge policies. The sources list them. Codifying reproductive rights, making Minnesota a refuge state for abortion access, universal background checks, the red flag gun law, LGBTQ+ protections, the trans refuge state designation.
Paid family leave, universal school meals, expanding the child tax credit, restoring voting rights. It's quite a list. A powerful progressive record, according to the material.
Exactly. And if you look at the evidence mentioned in the sources, the manifesto listing abortion rights supporters, those No Kings flyers linked to anti-government extremism.
It all points towards her being targeted because she was that symbol of progressive change, because of that legacy.
Which highlights this really tragic paradox, right? It's all there in the sources. She seems to have been killed for the progressive symbol she became over years.
Even though her very last big legislative move was this incredibly difficult, pragmatic compromise with the opposition, aimed at just keeping the lights on.
Yeah. It's a profound disconnect.
Yeah.
You have this leader making a painful choice for governance in a hyper-divided state.
But she's targeted not for that pragmatism, but for the years of progressive wins that defined her.
Her work in that special session really shows the messy reality of governing, doesn't it? While her death seems driven by an ideology that just rejects compromise, rejects the other side entirely.
So it leaves us, and you listening, with a really important question based on what we've looked at today. What does this stark difference between pragmatic action needed to govern and ideological targeting? What does that reveal about the nature of political extremism the sources describe?